So Rumble, which is in a YouTube type website that propped up in response to a lot of questions around free speech in YouTube, they have now gotten involved in this Rogan scandal and put an offer out there on the table. So take a look at this. Hey, Joe Rogan, this is the tweet part. Hey, Joe Rogan, we are ready to fight alongside you. See the note from our CEO, Chris Pavlovski. Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience. Dear Joe, we stand with you, your guests, and your legion of fans in desire for real conversation, so we'd like to offer you 100 million reasons to make the world a better place. How about you bring all your shows to Rumble, both old and new, with no censorship for $100 million over 4 years? This is our chance to save the world, and yes, this is totally legit. Sincerely, Chris Pavlovski. Okay, so there's a few things to say in response to this. I mean, he'd be in breach of contract if he did that. He's got this contract with Spotify, so I don't really think it's possible for him to do this. That's one thing. Another thing is I don't think that's nearly as much money as Spotify paid him. I think ultimately they ended up paying him more than that. So this is, for Rogan, this is not enough. It sounds insane to say, but $100 million is a ridiculous amount of money. But it honestly is less than what the Spotify deal ultimately came to. So there's that aspect of it as well. And then the other thing is they're framing it as like, look, well, we're not going to censor. We're going to protect you. But we now see the letter from the CEO to employees within Spotify. And at least according to the CEO, Joe either was willingly like, okay, go ahead and take some of the episodes down with the N-word in it. Or he's the one who asked to do it. So if he's the one who sort of volunteered that, then you saying like, we'll protect your free speech and you could keep those up, that's not going to appeal to him because he sort of wants them down. So I don't think this is going to land. I think they're just trying to generate press for themselves. They know he's going to say no. But Rumble's interesting because there's a lot of these alternative sites that pop up when the social media censorship and the filtration of content has gone overboard. You have these other sites that pop up. So there was Steemit tried to do it. I think they were crypto-based YouTube type alternative. I don't know if they're still active. I know that for Twitter there was Gab that popped up. But there's this thing that ends up happening, which is since YouTube and Twitter and like Facebook, these are still the main ones. The base of these new social media sites genuinely ends up just being for the people who only have an issue with the censorship. And so most of the time, keep it real, they end up being pretty right-wing. In the case of Gab, it literally became like neo-Nazi central. It wasn't like, even people who might be against the censorship, they didn't find it a compelling enough reason if they personally weren't censored to leave Twitter. Or to leave YouTube. And so Gab was just this right-wing outlet branding themselves as we're all about free speech. And people said, oh, really? You're about free speech? And they go there and test the limits. And they say all sorts of stuff that is genuinely bigoted and racist and over the top and crazy. And then that, in turn, turns off people who are normies from going over there. Now, Rumble, I think it's a little different. They've made some effort to not be exclusively a right outlet. But still, overwhelmingly, I think the content skews right-leaning. But Joe would be crazy to take a deal with anybody, given what's already happened with Spotify. I think he would have been better off staying independent the entire time, not taking the money and going to Spotify, because now that he's at Spotify, he sort of represents Spotify, whether he likes it or not. He's the face of the company, and so he's responsible for the CEO and the employees and the market value and all that stuff. And I don't think that's anything he ever really wanted or asked for. He just saw that if I'm exclusive with them, I get all this money, and so he went down that path. But there are obviously negative consequences associated with that, as you see now. And so, again, ultimately, I think Rumble's just trying to make a name for themselves here and get some press. Well, congratulations, you did get press, at least on this show. I don't doubt that they're more committed to free speech than maybe some of the other platforms, but it's also undeniably the case that they skew right. They might say, I don't want to do that, but they definitely ultimately do that. They're not nearly as bad as like Gab, which is literally just Nazi Central at this point. But yeah, these companies, honestly, the real answer, as all you guys know, and I've been arguing this for a long time, is that this isn't going to be solved through, more competition. It's just not. What we have now is Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, maybe some of the other social media outlets. They're the public square. That's the new public square. And so they should be regulated like they're public utilities. And you expand First Amendment free speech protections. It doesn't mean you can get away with direct threats of violence. It doesn't mean you can get away with targeted harassment. It doesn't mean you can get away with doxing people or libel or slander or whatever. You can't do that. But virtually everything else would be, you have a right to keep it up. So I think that's the solution. But having said that, in this instance, that solution wouldn't have made a difference, because if Joe himself did say, hey, I see the massive backlash, I want it to end, let's just pull down those episodes, then he has a right to do that no matter what, even if I don't like it, and I don't like it. Because again, just to use my podcast as an example, number 1187, apparently there was a conversation about Kanye. Joe quoted something Kanye said, and it included NIGGA in it. And as a result of that, now the entire podcast is off of Spotify, which means on Spotify, we've now lost the conversation that we had about Saudi Arabia's crimes. We've now lost the conversation we had about legalizing drugs and the drug war and the drug cartels. We've lost talking about reforming the Democratic Party, and we lost talking about Donald Trump's corruption. We lost talking about, Bernie Sanders' policies and how I support them. And so I think you're losing way too much. Worst case scenario I could see is just bleep out the word. If everybody is insistent we have to do something, okay, just bleep out that word. But even Joe apparently wanted to go above and beyond that. So anyway, Rumble, you got what you wanted. I saw a lot of articles on this. Some other people covered it. I'm covering it. But I think everybody knows this is pretty much a dead end offer. I think they mean it, but it's also a dead end offer. Joe's not going to take it. He'd be crazy to take it. In fact, I'm sure if he could go back in time, he wouldn't go to Spotify in the first place. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.